Well, hey there, fountain pen fans. I'm Brian Goulet here from gouletpens.com, here for another episode of Goulet Q&A where fountain pens are still a thing. It's episode number 330 today. How about that? I'm going to be talking about a few different things, including greasing a TWSBI piston seal and whether it matters if you're using the pen regularly or if it's sitting there for a long time. Showing the ink vent and color vent ink vent and color vent colors for Christmas time. That's a lot of C's. Whether I should do that or not, or whether you want to be surprised. Using dip pens with shimmering ink. Is that recommended or not? Comparing the Pilot Falcon soft nib as well as the Custom 74 soft nib and the Pilot Custom 743 FA nibs. I got them all inked up. We're going to take them for a test drive. Also, why limited edition fountain pens exist. I got some feelings on that one. And I'll spotlight our latest Delta butterfly pen called Blue Morpho, as well as the Delta Pompeii, which is mostly sold out, but I'm going to show it anyway. It'll be a good episode, so thanks for sticking around, and let's start off with feedback, shall we? All right, just a little bit of feedback this time. One is from Mixed Drinks 8100. When you gonna do the orange ink rating? ranking. When you going to do orange ink rating? I'm thinking like the Ink Showdown orange. It's on my to-do list. I haven't done it yet, but it's coming. It's coming. I'm trying to decide, should I break up the oranges like I did with the pinks, or should I just lump all the oranges together? I haven't sat down and actually categorized them and stuff like that. I'll see. If there's a lot of oranges and I really feel like they need to be broken out, I'll do that, but that would be tough. I don't know how you do that. Dark oranges and light oranges, I guess. I don't know. And then Evan Basnaw says, I've been swapping the ring and grips on the Safari, Vista, Joy, and All-Stars as long as I've had them. The Vista section is the best. So I talked about that a little bit last week. Kind of blew my mind. I didn't realize you could actually just pull the rings right off of the Safari and Vista and swap them around to your heart's desire. That's pretty cool. So yeah, learn something new every day. That's it for feedback. Let's talk about some new stuff because there is a little bit to talk about. All right, first up, we have Diamine Ink Vent 2025 Teal Edition. Now, Diamine does name their ink vents after colors, which is a little bit confusing because it makes you think like, is it 25 different teals? No, it's not. Though they could do that because there's a whole ton of teals. Yes, so it is going to be 25 different colors. You have 10 ml samples of each and then a full bottle on the 25th. Represent Christmas. If you didn't know, ink vent, advent, calendar. So you get starting December 1st, open up a new ink every day till Christmas. So that's what that's for. $120 for this one. It's a little bit less expensive than the Color Vent, which is from Colorverse. That came out a week or two ago. So you got both of these. So that's kind of cool. They are unique. Let's see here in that I mentioned the 25 colors. Yeah, I think okay. So they're going to have standard sheen, extreme sheen, maybe some scented shimmer and sheen, chameleon pigment, pigmented chameleon. You could have all kinds of interesting stuff going on in these, but you don't really know. It's a surprise. And we got a question about that coming up, which I'll get to in a minute, but we have those available now. So you can go check them out. It's definitely ideal to get them before December, but you know what? You do you. Okay. Also got a Wearing Gold glass dip pen. So this is I got another question about dip pens today too. These new products, we didn't pick these based on what the questions were. I guess I did pick the questions though, after I knew about the new products. Whatever. It's more or less coincidental. But we have this new glass dip pen from Wearing Gold. It's pretty cool. It's $10, pretty cheap. Comes in some decent packaging too. So I'll show you that in a minute, but it's pretty much like every other glass pen. It's very simplified looking, but the idea is the same. It's got flutes in it. You dip it in the ink and you write with it. That's pretty much how it works. Though it does come with a little sheet of sandpaper if you wanted to smooth out the nib. I'll show you what that's all about. The another one, I got a Delta Pompeii. This is a special edition coming from Delta. This one's actually numbered, so that's interesting. So these, I'm not going to talk it up too much because I'm going to show it later. And as of right now, we only have a few pens left. Most of them sold before I even shot this video. And this is coming out 4 days after I shoot it. So what are you going to do? It's probably all going to be gone by the time this publishes. but at least it'll be a record that it ever existed, right? And then I also am going to have a new pen. Where did this one go? Oh, I didn't mention it on here, but I will. This is the Delta Butterfly Blue Morpho, which just came out this week. This is another exclusive that we have with Delta, a third in our Butterfly series. So I'm going to show you all those today, make that the spotlight of the day, and also show you the Pompeii just because I can. So you can check those out. Look later in the video to see that. We have a new Lamy Vista gift set. So we've done this with Lamy, a few times over the years. I don't think that this is exclusive to us, though. I think Lamy's doing this more widespread. We've done some exclusive gift set stuff for the holidays before with Lamy. It's not new products or anything. It's just different ways to package them. It comes in a nicer, box and stuff like that. So that's what's happening on this one. So it's going to be $40 for this. You can get a Vista, just a regular Vista, not our black one. But it's fine and medium nib options. It comes with a Z28 converter, a pack of black cartridges, and a 50 ml bottle of black ink. So not bad for all coming together, and it presents really nicely. So if you wanted to get it for a pen person in your life, it's pretty cool. Sailor's got a few new pens out, part of their Tea Time collection. So this is actually the 5th installment of their Tea Time Around the World series, honoring the Japanese tea ceremony. So these look pretty nice, as you may guess. They are green. At least one of them is green. We have the Matcha, which comes in a Pro Gear Standard, as well as a King of Pens. Looks pretty nice. It's got like a darker green, kind of like the Matcha color. Like a mid-green, and then like a darker green, and then a little bit of cream kind of looking color for, I guess, I don't know what that's supposed to represent, but it just looks nice. And then those have gold nibs on them. Well, these all have gold nibs, actually. So the Pro Gear on that one is $440. King of Pens is a whopping $11.20 for that pen. King of Pens prices have gone up a little bit. You notice it more because it's 4 digits now instead of 3. But still really cool pen. And then there's a Pro Gear Slim called Nerikiri. And that one is going to be like a nice like lavender kind of color. Lilac, lavender, something like that. A lighter purple. And it's a little bit translucent. It's got a little bit translucent kind of ivory cap to it. Looks pretty nice. So this is going to be $280 for this one. This is a smaller body pen. And it's going to come with a they're coordinating it with the launch of the Japanese tea ceremony ink, which is a 20 ml bottle of the special ink, which is a nice like matcha green color. So looks pretty nice. And then we've got a new ink from Noodlers. This is a limited ink, very seasonal for Halloween. So this is Halloween Chucky, which it's like a woodchuck. Kind of funny. It's not super graphic or anything like that, but it's meant more to be clever. So only 431 of these bottles worldwide. Once they're gone, they're gone. I imagine we're not going to have them that long, but it's, shadowy kind of deep black color, and it's got the custom labeling on it. So I don't know exactly which color black in the Noodlers lineup. Did it coordinate? I don't know if it's like a new color, but it's black. How many different blacks can you have? Noodlers already has a bunch of them. So these are all handcrafted. So that's available. And then we have 2 pens from Conklin, the 1898s. These are both going to be Jonathan Brooks resins. So they look really nice. These are primary manipulations. So these are 2 different manipulations of the primary manipulations. You have the primary manipulation 4.5, which is 4.5 gold, I think is what it's called. So these are limited. We have them for $460. These are going to be a little more expensive than some of the other 1898s because they have gold nibs on them. So you're going to get a 2-tone Yovo made 14 karat gold nib in fine, medium, and omniflex. So you have that as an option on this first one. And it's a nice blend of like blue, purple, pink. It's got a little bit of green in there. It's got gold trim. It's pretty cool looking. I'm not going to lie. It looks incredible. The color is going to vary a lot from pen to pen. So we tried to take a picture of some of the variants, but we can't really honor like specific requests on these. Each pen is just so wildly different. So just know that going in. And then we have the other one, which is the primary manipulation 5.0. So it's just different like mixes of the colors basically, but it's all very colorful, nice mix of a whole bunch of different things. So same thing, 14 karat nib, fine, medium, and omniflex. This one's going to be like a red, brown, blue. So the blue is kind of translucent on this one. So looks really interesting. And gold trim on this one as well. So packaged in some nicer boxes. And yeah, each of these is going to be $460 for that. But the gold nib is part of what makes that jump up a little bit. So yeah, we've got those now. I don't know how long they'll be available. They're limited. So if you're interested, move it up on your list. All right, that's it for new stuff for the moment. I'll do a couple quick company updates and then get into the questions. All right, first update is finally got to the magenta ink showdown. I did the pink a couple of weeks ago, and now I have magenta to follow it up. I was very clear that I did not have magentas in my pink video, except for one that I probably miscategorized a little bit, but that's okay. These are all magentas, and I feel good about all of them. So 10 different magenta inks that I'm gonna be showing down. Which one is gonna come out on top? I do pick a favorite, so yeah, look out for that. And then probably by the time you're watching this, this will already have happened, but we have a mental health half day here at Goulet Pens. So we give our team off for the latter half of our Friday. We do that about once a month. And yeah, it's really nice. It's nice to have a chance to coordinate and everybody does something more intentionally, like specifically for mental health or something that they've been meaning to do, wanting to do, trying to do. Yes, it's a nice thing that we started doing during COVID and we've kind of kept it up because we like it. So I don't know specifically what I will be doing yet, but I will have to report back next week, I guess, and let you know. Okay, that's it for company updates. Let's get into the questions. All right, first question we have this week comes from Ginga Snaps Art. It says, random question. All else being equal, which TWSBI Eco or pen in general needs the silicone grease first? The pen that's used constantly or the pen that sits unused regularly? Thank you for humoring me. You're very welcome. Yeah, it's a good question. I am going to have to kind of go off of anecdotal observation. I don't really have any like data on this. Really didn't have any time to like test it out or anything like that. But I do have a bunch of pens, you know, from TWSBI that have just been sitting for a while. And I also have pens that I use on a regular basis. And, you know, I'm just going to use this. This is the new Carrara with Onyx trim. So this is an Eco, but I guess you kind of broadened it up a little bit. It doesn't have to be an Eco per se. But Eco is a good one because I can show you what's going on. And then I can also show you silicone grease because TWSBI provides their own. They're the only brand to do that. So here we go. You got your two different things that you can grease on here. I'm assuming that you're going to be talking about the piston seal itself. So you got this rubber piece here that's going to go up against the walls of the pen. That is what's actually providing your seal. That's going to provide most of the smoothness or resistance because it's, you know, it's rubber. So this is going to be the first thing that's going to need silicone grease. You can also grease the rod, though I will give a caveat. Anytime I mention this, I have to be careful. So TWSBI does have their 580 AL, as well as like a mini AL. They have a couple different aluminum versions. So here you have an aluminum rod, which has some kind of like white looking grease on it. That is white lithium grease. And that you do not want to put your regular clear silicone grease on because it can actually seize it up and then you will never be able to get it apart, which is not ideal. So white lithium grease on that, but then you would use the clear silicone grease on the piston seal itself. So didn't want to get but so deep on that because that wasn't even the nature of your question, but I had to mention that. So when it comes to my own experiences with these, I find that it's not like it needs to be greased at some specific point. Usually what will happen after I've used it for a while is it'll just start to feel a little bit tougher. And because I've used a whole bunch of different pens and I usually try to keep them greased pretty well, if it's not like quite smooth, then I'm like, oh, this is unacceptable. This needs to be repaired right now, which it is nice and convenient with TWSBI because they give you a wrench and everything. So when you comes time and you do need to re-grease it, I do have a video more specifically showing how to actually take these things apart, but let's see if I can remember which way to turn it. Here we go. All right. So it comes greased, so it's not like you have to do it right away, but I like to, basically. So TWSBI provides you with this silicone grease here, this cute little thing, but it's pretty liquidy. And so this stuff I find doesn't last quite as long as the stuff that we use. So this is Goulet silicone grease, and this stuff is more of a thick paste. So here you can see it kind of slushing around in the bottle there a little bit, and this paste is like not going anywhere. So when I grease it up, I usually just kind of dip it in here a little bit. There you go, put it right kind of in between. So this is a double-walled piston seal. Not every pen is double-walled like that. Sometimes it's single-walled. And then I find if it's single-walled, then even quicker, you're going to need to probably want to re-grease it if you can. Not every pen comes apart and you're able to re-grease it like that, which that could be a whole other rabbit hole that I could go down, because I do have some hacks for pens like the Lamy 2000, like Pelikan Souvrons and stuff like that that don't necessarily disassemble, but you can still grease those pistons sometimes. There we go. Nice and greased up. Voila. Oh, I didn't mention, I guess I can also do the rod. It already felt pretty smooth, so I don't know why I'm showing you how to do it all of a sudden. But yeah, so here, basically you just need to get a little bit on the threads, and that'll do it just fine. You get it kind of up towards the top, and then it'll kind of spread it naturally just by operating the mechanism. Boom. Get that in there. Make sure I catch the threads. Oops, I'm going the wrong direction. I can never remember. Even though I made the video and everything, sometimes I literally have to reference my own stuff. Yeah, and then I'll just operate the piston up and down a couple of times. Now I've got grease on my piston rod. Oh, it's so smooth. It's like butter. Okay, so my own experience, to go back to what I was saying just a minute ago, do you need to grease it up after it's been sitting for a while, or do you need to grease it up after you're using it? My own experience is you have to grease it up more when you're using it. Definitely sometimes I've had some pens that have been sitting there for a long time, and usually what happens is the rubber, like where it's making contact, will want to stick a little bit, even if it's greased up. The grease stays in one place, but if the rubber over time, kind of like squeezes out that grease a little bit as it's just sitting there, and it wants to grab just a bit. So when I've had a pen that's been sitting there a while, sometimes it'll be like, and then I'll kind of snap, not snap like an audible snap, but it'll have a little bit of pressure, and then it'll kind of give, and then it'll operate, more or less smoothly again. And then it just kind of keeps going. So at some point, depending on the grease, depending on the manufacturer, the pen, how it's designed, it's going to need to be re-greased after just sitting there for a long time. But it's definitely getting more like pushed out of the way, more used up as you're inking it, cleaning it, filling it, that kind of a thing, and just operating that piston over and over again. Especially if you are, cleaning it, that's the time when that piston's going to be rocking and rolling the most. Whereas with me, when I use the TWSBIs, part of the reason I do use the TWSBIs a lot is because they are so easy to clean, is I will just remove the piston out of the back and then flush it with a bulb syringe. And that saves a lot of time. And then, basically if I want to grease it, I've already got it pulled apart at that point. So it makes it pretty easy. But yeah, that's been my experience. So I don't know how y'all feel about it, but basically, depending on your own personal preference, like how often do you need to do that? If you're using the same pen a lot, it might be like once every 4 months, 6 months, something like that. It's not all that often that you have to grease these things. But it is really nice when you can, because then you can always have it feeling like new, and it feels pretty good. So yeah, that's what I got. And hope that answers your question. Okay, next question. This is from Paul Drexel, 1501. I would love to see your favorite inks of the year. Also wondering if you're doing a Christmas ink calendar video. For example, a new ink every day leading up to Christmas, or you could do it in the month before Christmas to tempt people to buy one, though that is a bit of a spoiler. Yeah, so this is a good question. First one, about the inks of the year. I am going to be doing that, but not yet, because it's not the end of the year yet. So I've been doing the hottest pens of the year and then hottest inks of the year at the end of each year for... This might be the 7th or 8th year I've done it now. So yeah, I will keep that going. But I haven't started prepping it yet because it's only mid-October, mid to late October at this point, and I've got a couple of months. So I'm going to see, because there's definitely new stuff still coming out. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. So that will be coming. And then as far as the ink vent and the color vent goes, I'm very curious what y'all think. I would love some engagement in the comments on this, because we've been torn about this internally for basically ever since InkVent started coming out. We've never done a like day by day like ink reveal. And I'm really torn about it for a couple of different reasons. So the first is that it's a lot of time to put that together, especially if we did like a full length video. I mean, I guess I could do it and then like stitch it all together into one huge video, but that would be really long and that would take a while. You know, would I do, it wouldn't make sense to do like a full video every single day. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of attention that I don't know you would want to give that many ink colors. You know, it's something that maybe could make sense on like a TikTok or YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels kind of a thing. However, this is also like the busiest time of year for us in the retail business. So spending this much time on, you know, essentially one product is extremely time consuming and very time consuming from like a production standpoint. Because it's not just sitting down and playing with the ink. You gotta, you know, edit, record, post-production, all that kind of stuff, and publish it. You know, it's a lot of time. And we have not devoted that time before, partly because we're so busy. But, you know, we have the calendars now. We could technically work ahead and do them. It is possible. But that's also taking time away from other things. So I don't know. It's a trade-off, right? Second point is that, like kind of like you mentioned, it's going to spoil it for anybody who wants to be surprised. Even if we did it like one day at a time kind of a thing, you know, I don't know, I actually don't have any like data on this, but like who's actually keeping it up and opening up every single one. I would imagine most people are just kind of opening it up and using it whenever they have time and kind of play with it. You know, I'm just pulling this number out of thin air, but maybe like 15% of the people that buy them are opening it up like every single day throughout the December. That's just my guess. I have no idea. Let me know if you do it that way, or let me know if you don't do it at all that way. And we'll see if we get enough people in the comments to make a 15% summation. So yeah, that would be an issue, is if we were publishing it, because then, you know, you'd spoil it. Especially the way that the algorithms work these days on all the social platforms. It's not like I can guarantee that you'll see something the day that I publish it, right? So stuff could get all out of order, it could be delayed. Though, I mean, if it's delayed, maybe that would work to your benefit. But yeah, I don't know. So that would be kind of interesting. But definitely if we did it a month ahead of time, that would be tough, because then it would absolutely be spoiling it for anybody. And I think part of the fun is getting to experience it yourself, you know. But I don't know what's in your social feeds. I don't know how much pen content you guys are getting from everybody else. But there definitely are some people that will do that. I don't know, most retailers are doing it, I think, because most retailers are like us, are just so slam busy to produce that much around one thing. But definitely some people that are more enthusiasts and influencers, you know, in the space will, you know, kind of ink them up and use them and stuff like that. So you certainly can see what's out there. Would we add unique value by doing that? I don't know. That's part of the thing. But really the third point is the biggest one, which is, in the past, we've always sold out of these sets by the time that you would actually start using them, by the time December rolls around. It's a relatively new thing with the Diamine InkVent, at least, that we've even had them into December. And part of the reason that we had last year's was that we did not know that the color vent existed or would exist when we ordered for our stock of the Diamine InkVent. So for us, we ended up basically overstocked on InkVent, because you can imagine the color vent cannibalized the sales a little bit of the InkVent. So we did end up with InkVent a little longer. In fact, I think we just got rid of them not too long ago. We put them on super duper sale because, you know, how many people need that in mid-year the following year? But yeah, so we're trying not to overshoot it, but it's so tough to know, like, how's it going to do every year. And now with two different sets, who knows if we can forecast and get our numbers right. So in the past, we haven't done it because we sell all the sets. We don't have them. You know, in the past, I think it came out in like October or something like that. And I think like the first one or two we sold out like within a week or two. You know, so then it's like we don't have them for like a month and a half or something like that. And then we're going to start coming out with the reveals and stuff like that. And as fun as that would be, that would also be kind of annoying. Think about it, like us as your retailer, we'd be like, hey, here's this great thing, but you can't have this. And if you already have it, we're just spoiling it for you. So it was like, it's a great idea and concept, but then also like, who are we making this for? So that's why we haven't like really put a lot of effort into doing that before. I don't know. It could be kind of interesting. And certainly if we, you know, end up having some sets still, but now we got 2 different sets. So now it like doubles the work. We'd have to do it for color vent and iMine ink vent. I don't know. I'm really torn because it's a huge commitment of time and energy, and I don't know exactly who it would be serving. So, you know, basically it would be like entertaining for those who just want to watch it, but don't want to buy it because it may not be available by the time you would even see it. Or it'd be for those who already have the sets who we would only be likely to spoil it. So I don't know. I'm open to ideas about this because it is something we debated about a lot, but then it's also like, well, why don't we promote inks that we have and that are still available, you know? But I don't know. It's interesting. This is where it's really good for like influencers to get to do it. I mean, we are kind of an influencer, but you know, like more proper influencers, non-retail influencers, just because you're experiencing it, you know, just like any other enthusiast in the community would. So I don't know. I feel like that would be more genuine, I guess, like you receiving it and getting excited about it and sharing it out. So there are people that do that already. So I don't know. I'm curious to know who you've seen do that kind of stuff around either the color vent or the ink vent. And yeah, what value that you think we could uniquely add maybe. And then I can think about it. But, you know, it's a brainer. It's not a no-brainer. It's a brainer. Anyway, let's go to the next one. I got a question here from Paul Cervini, 4976, who says, "Hi, Brian. I'm wondering if it is possible to use dip pens with shimmering inks. I was given a shimmering ink as a gift, and I would like to try it out before inking it up with a pen, or inking up in a pen. I have a glass dip pen made by Herbin and a quill pen with various steel nibs. Would one of these work? How can I tell if it would work? Thank you." Yeah, it will work. And you can just go ahead and use it. You don't have to overthink it. You know, it's just like using any other dip ink, honestly. Except I actually prefer to use shimmering inks. Mostly if I'm like testing them out or if I just want to use it for a short thing. I don't write like long things with dip pens just because fountain pens exist, and I find that it works really well. But dip pens in general, you know, you got 2 different ones. The ones you're talking about with like the metal nibs, those more than likely might be actually like calligraphy nibs, which are meant to actually use thicker calligraphy ink, usually like an acrylic or shellac based, not a fountain pen ink. Though you can use both with a dip pen. You cannot use both in a fountain pen. You have to have fountain pen ink, which is more watery. You do not want to use the acrylic stuff in a fountain pen, or you will clog it up and ruin it. So don't do that. However, you can definitely use dip pens, and I was like, well, why not? Let's have a good opportunity to ink some stuff up. So I have here with me some Tomoe River loose sheets because I feel like it will show the shimmer the best. And then I have a couple different dip pens that I'm going to use. Ironically, well, I guess I could use the Herbin one. I have an Herbin one, but it's an older one, mainly because they keep changing the designs, and I don't want to have like 40 glass pens. So this is an older design. This goes way back. This is like OOG. I may have used that in my 2010 Herbin glass pen video. And I still have the pen, but I like this one. It writes finer than most other glass pens that I've ever used, which is why I keep it and use it, but you get the idea. And then I have the Kakamori dip nib, which is very different. It's got several flutes on it. It's one that doesn't write so much like a normal pen. It's more of an art thing. With the Rower and Cleaner glass pen, which is, this one is definitely broader and wetter. And then I have these Pilot Iro Utsushi, which is basically a Pilot metal nib. So you can use any of these. And then I have a couple of different inks. I have my Golden Sands, Diamine Shimmertastic Golden Sands, which is just a ton of shimmer ink. And then I have my good old faithful here, Jacques Herbin Emerald of Chavour. So I thought I would just dip a few of these, test it out. If it ends up taking forever and gets really boring, I might edit it down a little bit. We'll see. So let's start out with the Herbin. mostly it's going to take me time to just clean them out. So here we go. Herbin glass pen. Okay. So that one is going to be definitely on the finer side, which is not going to just glob the ink down. Whereas the Roller and Klingner one, we're going to enter into Glob City here, because this one is very wet. And this is Roller and Klingner. I'm just going to write R and K. Glass pen. So yeah, you can tell it puts down way more ink. And then next up, we'll do the Kakamori. Why not? Gotta clean that off a little bit more. Yeah, so I really like the glass pen in particular for shimmering ink, because part of the pain of shimmering ink, if you can call it that, a pain, part of the higher maintenance of it is the shimmer is going to stick to stuff. It's going to stick to your feed. It's going to get up in your pen. If it doesn't dry out, it's not so bad to clean it out. But if it dries out, then it's really a pain. If you're like me and you just wait too long to clean all your pens. So here we go, Kakamori. Dip. Yeah. And then you can get like a big old swath. There you go. Very wet on that one. So you see like why I like the Herbin one is because it's a little bit finer. But then I have the Wearing Gold one too, which I actually want to use. I guess I'm using 5 different pens. So I did not mean to turn this into a whole project, but I guess I did, didn't I? Pilot Euro Oot Sushi. There you go. Now the Pilot one is not going to hold as much ink, so you might have to dip it a little bit more. But I do feel like it gives you a more accurate sample of what writing with it in a fountain pen is going to look like, because that's basically what you're doing. You just don't have a feed, so it's not going to keep writing very long, but you're getting the ink up in that, up in the slit of the nib, and so you are getting something. And then I got the Wearing Gold one. Comes in a nice box, surprisingly nice for $10. Price subject to change, of course, because tariffs. Yeah, it comes with a little square of sandpaper, which I will show you what you can do with that in a second. But yeah, so very similar design to like the Herbin and the Roller and Klingner, a simplified one for the price, of course, as you might expect. But let's go ahead and dip this one, give it a shot. Wearing Gold glass pen. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit on the finer side compared to this one. Here you asked about shimmer inks, and I'm just giving you like a glass pen review. Go figure. But that is it for Emerald Chivor. And then I'll just dip real quick for the Golden Sands, because there's a lot of shimmer in this one, and I really wanted to be able to demonstrate the shimmer for you. And I love Emerald Chivor, but it is not the shimmeriest ink. It is more like a sheen and shimmer, which is why I love it. It's a nice balance of the two. But you're not going to get straight up sheen as much as you will with the Shimmertastic. So here we go. This is going to be the Herbin glass pen. Interesting. I mean, there's a lot more shimmer on this one. One thing that is interesting, though, that I found, I don't know if I'll be able to really show it so much with these pens that I have here, but you will sometimes find that when you're writing with shimmer ink in a dip nib, especially a glass nib like this, the shimmer particle itself like sinks to the bottom. Like, I don't know if it's like the gravity or whatever, or maybe it's like this, the surfactants that they put in there to help it flow. But the shimmer tends to like get down to the tip. So when you're writing with it, it's a lot of shimmer at first. and then less as the word goes on. I don't know why I wrote it out fully there, but I didn't at the top. I guess I'm already in too deep now. All right, Kakimori. I feel like I need to keep shaking this because the shimmer is going to settle out, which wouldn't matter if you were just writing with it personally, but since I am trying to give a sample of what these actually look like, I want to keep it kind of mixed up. Okay, Kakimori. I feel like it's not flowing as wet as the Emerald of Chivor, which is interesting. Which, you know, sometimes with like various properties of these inks, you can get somewhat of an idea of how it might flow in a fountain pen when you're using a dip pen, or at least what the color will look like. But in terms of like how it's going to flow, it may or may not perform the same because I don't know, it's still working by capillary action, but with the whole feed system and the way that it regulates in a fountain pen, I feel like fountain pens write generally drier than most of your dip pens. All right, Iro Utsushi. And last but not least, our wearing girlfriend. Okay. Now as I clean up a little bit here, tell you what, I'll explain what's going on with the sandpaper thing as I'm letting all this dry up. So they give you a little square of sandpaper. You can use this for any glass pen that you want. I don't know what grit this is, but it seems like an automotive grade, either like a 400 or 600, or sorry, 4,000 or 6,000. I don't know. Automotive sandpaper is a little different, but it's not super sandy. It's quite smooth actually. But if you wanted to smooth out your glass pen, like say it writes just a little bit harsh, you can kind of just scrape it a little bit. I would not go too hard because if you overdo it, you can actually end up sanding away the very tip. And you see how it's like, you know, very much tapered here. Well, if you start sanding it away, it's going to make it much broader and much wetter. And you can't put it back. So anyway, that's what that's for. Use it sparingly. You know, it's mostly if you just like wanted to get a slight smoother feel. Very light touch. I'm kind of like rotating a little bit as I'm doing it. And then that's better. You can use an even finer sandpaper, like if you have like micro mesh, like the micro mesh that we sell. That's even finer than this stuff. So you could use that too, and that would even get an even smoother polish, if that's what you like. And again, it's a $10 pen. So what do you really have to lose? Okay, so I'll zoom in a little bit and show you how these work. But basically, you tell me how you think they did. I think they look great, quite honestly. There you go. Obviously, the wetter the pen, the more shimmer you're going to get, the more sheen you're going to get. But it really works pretty much the same as it does with any other ink that you would use with a glass pen. There's nothing about the shimmering per se that makes it more troublesome, more problematic. You know, about the only thing that I mentioned is like sometimes the shimmer might dump on a little heavier in the beginning than it will towards the end. But even that, I'm not noticing that, honestly, a lot, at least with these inks. It's very possible that you'll get that more with some other ink than you will with these ones that I'm demonstrating here. So yeah, there you go. Honestly, when it comes to shimmer in a dip pen, it's all about how much ink you put down. I'm seeing the most shimmer with the Kakimori, which makes sense because that is the wettest. So there you go. hopefully that answers your question. I got to demonstrate some different glass pens. Yeah, they can be kind of fun. I don't like writing with them personally, like any meaningful amount, but what they're great for is ink testing. So writing ink samples, testing them out, seeing what they look like, writing, if I'm doing like I'm doing here, rapid changing inks, this is why I do use it for all the ink showdowns. It works really great for that. So they have their place, and they're fun to play around with. So there you go. All right, question number 4. This is from Mixed Drinks 8100, who you may recognize from the orange comment earlier. They had a 2-parter. So you forgot the coolest Custom 74, referring to what I talked about last week, the brown amber one that is like a mini 823. Well, I didn't forget it. I didn't know that it existed. And you said that it's a shareholder version. Okay, so that's why I didn't know about it. So it's not a pen that's available to sell. It's a pen, the shareholder ones, Pilot's a public company. So they will give out to, I guess, their bigger like shareholders and stuff. I don't really know how that system works because I'm not a part of it. Is they will make special pens sometimes for these shareholders. So different companies do that. They make special pens for their employees or for whoever. And so Pilot's a big company, and I guess they did that with the Amber, Custom 74, which sounds pretty cool, but it's not anything I've seen, and I didn't mention it because I was only mentioning last week the pens that I actually have and have had access to, all the regular ones that they've offered in the US at least. Okay, so your question though, how does the soft fine medium compare to the Falcon soft nibs? So this is really good. So when you said Falcon soft nibs, my first thought was the Falcon nib like you see on the Custom 743. But then I was thinking, oh, you might mean the Pilot Falcon pen. So we're going to compare them both. So I got them all linked up. I have my Custom 74. This is the new North American exclusive. And I actually still have it inked up with my Murasaki Shikibu. And we're going to write with it. I'm going to show you how they write and basically just kind of compare them, sort of. Not going to be like the most detailed comparison ever, but here we go. So this is the, I'm going to have to turn it, and then you can zoom in a little bit. So this is the Pilot. I'm going to go big because I think it'll show it better. And now they make soft nibs in a couple different sizes on this one. I think it's what, a soft fine medium, and a double broad, I think is what we have in the Custom 74. Forgive me if I'm wrong about that. So Pilot Custom 74. Now, my experience on this one is that you can get a little bit of line variation, but it's a different kind of soft than what you get on the Falcon, which is why I think it's why I wanted to compare it here. Okay, I really can't talk and write at the same time. Soft, fine, medium. Okay, I'll do some X's there. So if I give it a little bit of downward pressure, as if I'm like trying to actually flex the nib, I might be able to go a little further than this, but this is as far as I kind of feel comfortable going, especially knowing that it's not a flex nib. It is just a soft nib. So for me, the softness on this nib, it might give a little bit of line variation as I'm writing, but honestly, mostly it's going to be just for the feel of it. It's going to feel super springy. I really like how this feels, but it's not going to be, necessarily used for the same purpose as you might with some of these other nibs. So this is the Pilot Falcon. Now this one is the soft extra fine. So it's not necessarily apples to apples here, but they don't make a soft fine medium in the Falcon. At least they don't offer it in the US. So you either have to go with a fine, I guess to be more accurate to the sizing, I guess I could go with a fine or a medium, but the extra fine is the one that I already had and it was empty. So I was able to ink it up easily. So we're just going to go with that. So the line is going to be finer. It's going to seem more dramatic, right? That's why I personally kept the extra fine. But yeah, here we go. So this is the Pilot Falcon. It feels worse on the page. It's toothier. Especially when I'm like trying to get it more like flexible. Okay, so this is the soft. Now I will say these Pilot Falcon nibs are soft. I don't know if we've ever called them soft. They are soft, like it even says on here, you know, SE, which is a soft extra fine. I think we've always just called it the Pilot. What do we call it? We've changed so much with various things recently. I need to make sure. Okay, so Falcon. It is accurate to call it a fine. I think we maybe, you know what? I don't even trust myself. What do we call it? We do call it soft extra fine. Okay. So we do call it soft. Okay. But there is no non-soft version. So when people have talked about the Falcon nibs, theoretically, I guess they make a non-soft one, but they've never had it in the US. So that's good to know. Soft extra fine. So if you wanted to get something that's a little more like writing with a flex nib, the soft extra fine Falcon is personally what I would recommend. It does a pretty good job, especially given the variation. Now, I don't have one inked up, so I can't really demonstrate, but my experiences with these Falcon nibs, the width that it goes here is as wide as it's going to go, no matter which size you're writing with, basically. I don't know if I've used a soft broad. We used to have that in like a metal Falcon. They're not very popular, especially because you don't really see a lot of line variation. But basically, the dramatic nature of the flexibility is going to vary solely on your nib size. So if you want the most dramatic look, you go with the extra fine. But it does not feel very smooth. I mean, they do a pretty good job with it, but it is quite fine. So there you go. So you get more dramatic line variation here, which kind of makes sense, but it's also a fine medium versus an extra fine. So I guess if I had a medium or fine Falcon, that would be a little bit more accurate, but come on, work with me here. It's not even its dedicated video. This is just a little section in Q&A. And then I have the Pilot FA nib, which is on my custom 823. So this is a larger nib. So it's all three of these are different shaped nibs. But yeah. Now this one is going to be the softest and the wettest, the most variation. Now this one does feel a little better. What is this? Custom 743. Oh, sorry, my handwriting is not the best. I don't practice flexing all that much. And then what is this? The Falcon. It's confusing because it's the Falcon, but it's more known, I guess, as the FA. There you go. And then, oh, I made it railroad there a little bit. Took it too far. Or I went too fast. There you go. So that's a little more dramatic, right? So there is only one version of the FA. I would say the grind is more like a fine nib, but then it's softer. It does flex out a little bit more than the Falcon, and certainly more than the Custom 74 soft fine medium. So there you go. There's the three pens. There they are next to their respective thing. It's like a good Instagram post right there. So you do get some line variation with each of these. Now the smoothness, the soft fine medium feels the smoothest, and it feels very bouncy. The 743 is the softest, also the wettest. The Pilot Falcon is going to be the thinnest if you get that extra fine. It's going to be the thinnest with what appears to be, I think, the most variation if you're going for flexibility. So you got to write slower. It feels a little scratchier. The 743 is a nice balance between the two, but it's also the most expensive pen. So it kind of depends on what you're looking for. They're all really nice looking nibs. They write great. They generally feel pretty good, and they can get you some interesting writing, depending on what you're going for. But there you go. That's the breakdown between all of them. So, you know, it really depends on what you're looking for. I can't even like recommend one over the other because it's, I think if you're using like just an everyday writer, I like the soft fine medium. The Pilot Falcon, I generally prefer like as an everyday pen, more of a fine nib probably, because it's not, the difference between the smoothness of an extra fine and the fine is pretty dramatic. Between the fine and medium is a little less dramatic. And the medium is going to be definitely wetter. You're not going to see as much line variation. But then the Falcon is pretty nice too. That's definitely the most popular nib size on the 743. So yeah, that's what I got. So I hope you enjoyed that. All right, last question of this week comes from Akif Faisal. Why are there limited editions for fountain pens? Very honest question. So I broke it down into like, there's kind of three different motivations, I guess, or there's three different perspectives to have on the limited editions. So this is a little bit more so coming from my perspective as a person in the industry, I guess, because I get to see more of the developmental side, more of the manufacturer kind of supply chain side. And then of course, as a consumer myself, as a customer of my own choosing, I also see the benefits there. So I'm going to talk about all of those. So there's like three different kind of motivating like categories, mainly being like the manufacturer, the retailer, and then the customer, the end pen user. So for the manufacturing side, there's a number of benefits actually. Not so much in like terms of financial. Part of the reason limited editions end up generally being more expensive is when you're making stuff in smaller batches, you're not getting the same economies of scale. So it's, you have to source out materials, you have to test things, especially if you're doing like, really heavily themed thing with new elements to the pen that you maybe don't do every day. There's a lot of R&D. There's a lot of like stuff that just takes time and testing and all that kind of stuff. So, it's not like it's unprofitable, but they have to be more expensive. But no one's retiring off of these limited editions necessarily. Generally, there's other things for it. I'm not going to say it's like a loss leader, but it's something that is not purely driven by the financials. Generally speaking, from what I understand, I think part of the biggest motivation is that it is creatively interesting to design and make them. Honestly, we're in a passion-driven industry. We all get excited about pens, including manufacturers. If somebody just wants to churn out a bunch of stuff, there's a lot more lucrative industries you can be in than fountain pens. There's a cap, there's a ceiling. It's a very niche industry. There's only, the equipment's hard to come by, you can only scale it, but so much. What that means from the manufacturing side is it's really like a passion kind of driven thing for those that stick around. A lot of family businesses, multi-generational, kind of thing. A lot of history and relevance there. So that's what makes it special to me as someone who's gotten to see more and more like how they're made, like the factories, going and touring and getting to see some of these founders and stuff like that. There really is a lot of love and a lot of passion in this industry, which is cool. It's not contrived. Like it's real. It's really there. And I think honestly, some of the people, especially if they're like a founder that starts a pen company, thinking about brands like Monograppa, Visconti, things like that. They like to make stuff. They're just creative and they like to challenge themselves. They think it's interesting. They just want to do it. So that's why you see some of that stuff sometimes. It's honestly just a creative, interesting thing for them. It's also sometimes what I see sometimes is they'll have like, some really interesting materials, but they're hard to come by or they're not so easy to work with and you can't make them in quantity. But, if you get, 100 rods of a given material, but it's really hard to work with, or there's a lot of waste or something like that, and you can only get, 38 pens out of it or something like that. well, then you're going to make those limited editions. You're not going to work with that material on a regular basis. Or you might not have that much material, especially celluloids and stuff like that. They truly don't make them like they used to. So a lot of celluloid materials are vintage materials and you cannot get them anymore. So what are you going to do with that? I mean, what do you do if you only have enough material to make 60 pens or 80 pens globally? You know, that's not that many pens in the grand scheme of things. So limited editions are a great opportunity to get to use some of these unique and rare materials that otherwise, what would you do with it? It's also an opportunity for manufacturers to get to maybe test some different colors, see if there's demand for it. You know, this is maybe more so for certain special editions. You know, I know Lamy has done this before where they've had Safaris and All-Stars where they've come out with a color as like a special edition or something like that. And then years later, they'll bring it back as a regular edition, which, you know, that's different. You asked about limited editions. You know, limited editions, I think more like numbered. They only make a certain number of them and they will not make them again. But you can certainly have a model of pen. I know Visconti has done this before where they've had like a resin that they've used. You know, think about like their Daedalus pen that they did a while ago. I don't even know if I have an image of that to throw up, but you know, it was like a $4,000 pen. It was a blue material, like a translucent blue with sparkles in it. And they had a sterling silver overlay. So really the sterling silver overlay was the main star of the show for the limited edition's sake, but the resin used underneath it was interesting. So that was one that we actually, if you remember, we had a Opera Master that we did, the Luna, which was that blue with the translucent blue with the silver sparkles in it. It was pretty much a Goulet blue. So we used that for our own Opera Master color. So, you know, that's a kind of thing, like you never know where, you know, there's some elements of it that you may actually end up using, you know, in a future thing. So you're allowed to test different kind of more experimental things in some of these limited editions that you wouldn't necessarily do in like we're coming out with this pen for the next 5 years kind of a thing. Another benefit for the manufacturer is it just captures some attention for the brand. You know, Lamy is a perfect example for this. Pilot with their Vanishing Point. You know, there's definitely going to be pens that are regularly available and all that, but when a manufacturer comes out with something that is more special or limited in nature, you know, that gets attention. That seems interesting, especially to us pen people who are a very excitable bunch. You know, that might bring attention to something and you're like, oh, well, that's not really my color, or I don't really want to pay that. But, you know, wow, that is kind of a nice model. I kind of forgot about that one. Let me go check it out. And you might, you know, even if you don't buy that specific pen, you might be interested in that model and it gets some more attention. So that's why it can be good for, you know, brands to regularly release, you know, new colors, special editions, limited editions, things like that. Is it gets it on people's radar and it kind of cuts through the noise a little bit. Because, you know, pen people are not just competing, you know, for your attention as you know, pen users against other pen brands, but it's really against everything else on the internet and everything on social media. So, you know, it can be good to have something that is more special, more unique, that can cut through some of the noise of everything else that's grabbing for your attention. And it can lift the brand overall. And then, you know, another benefit to the manufacturer is that it can sometimes be easier logistically, especially if they're selling it through a given retailer. So if it's a retailer exclusive with a limited edition thing, you know, like us with Delta, like why are they doing that? Why are they spending time, custom packaging and everything? You know, part of it is we got a good relationship with Delta. But, you know, part of it too is logistically, it's very simple. You know, you're not having to deal with coordinating distribution in all these different countries and UPC codes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you do still do some of that, but if you're selling directly through one channel, you know, you get to make something, it's cool, you get to test it out, have some fun, develop it, and then boom, you ship it all to that one person, you're done with it. You don't have to photograph it, you don't have to do any of that stuff. You don't have to write a marketing copy necessarily. You can keep it pretty simple and very streamlined. So, you know, for a brand that likes to make things, but logistically it's kind of burdensome to release it globally. That's why sometimes you'll see like regional exclusives and you know, retailer exclusives and things like that. So there can be benefits to that, just keeping the logistics simple. The retailer side, this I can speak to very well. So for us, you know, there's the same benefits of like when brands come out with new things, especially limited things. it captures attention, and that's interesting. So that's good for us as a retailer. It helps. It makes it easier to promote things that are new and interesting. So that does help keep things fresh. It can bring attention to us as a retailer if we're carrying that thing. Also, it can acquire customers, especially if it's something that is a retailer exclusive. Then that would make a lot of sense. If it's a thing you can only get through us, we might want to do a limited edition collaboration kind of thing, like with the Deltas here, where if somebody's a big fan of Delta and they're like, oh, I can only get that color through Goulet pens. Okay, I might, they may normally want to spread it around, maybe buy from different retailers, but if they like that color and they can only get it through us, they'll buy it through us. So there can be a benefit to us as a retailer into doing that, because we might be able to serve customers who normally we might not serve quite as much, or maybe have never heard of us, and that's what gets us on their radar. That happens. Let's see here. What else? They're just fun and interesting, Now we see a lot more new stuff come through our doors because we carry a bunch of different brands than one manufacturer who's, only making a handful probably of new products every year. We are getting to see new stuff all the time. That said, we're still a very excitable bunch around here, and we like seeing new, fun, and interesting stuff. So that keeps it. We've been doing this 16 years now, me and Rachel. So, it is still interesting to see new stuff coming in. So that's kind of cool. It also makes for interesting content. When there's new stuff that's coming out, we can show it, get to see all the little details. It's kind of cool. You get to nerd out, especially if it's a really themed pen. That can be kind of fun. And it helps us in making interesting content for you all. Also, it's just a good opportunity to collaborate with a manufacturer, maybe make something more niche, more special, like relevant to us or to our customers. I personally do not have the deepest passion for butterflies, but I can appreciate them. But, would you make something that's going to be available for 3 to 5 years that's butterfly themed? Maybe, but maybe not. You can kind of take some swings at some more niche themes and interests, or maybe theme, colors that you might not think would do as well. You can do that on some limited editions, and that's kind of cool. So getting to do that, that's another thing like the manufacturer can benefit from collaborating with like more of a region or just an individual retailer, is there may be something that like, we're on social media every day, we're talking to y'all every day. We might be more in touch with kind of what's trendy or what would be really interesting to come out with, in the pen world, whereas a manufacturer may not see that if they're a global manufacturer. So we would get to come out with something more special to us that you all would love. So that's kind of cool. And then for you as the pen user, customer, it's just fun and interesting. You kind of a lot of the same things. It's just you're like more kind of benefiting from it. You get to see more interesting things. You get colors you wouldn't normally get, themes that might speak to you a little bit more. That can be really cool. So not every limited edition is going to hit the bullseye. In fact, the risk with going more narrow on limited editions is that you're going to miss the mark for most people. That's the whole thing. You're going to absolutely nail it for a small group of people. But then most people are going to be like, why the heck would you want a pen themed like that? Or who cares? It might be kind of interesting. You're like, oh, that color is okay, but I don't really, who cares about a butterfly? But if you are a botanist, or if you, really love, particular butterflies for whatever reason, you might be like, oh my gosh, this speaks to me like nothing else ever has. And that's just really fun. We try to get to know you all, but we can't know everybody, obviously, and your kind of obscure interests and passions and stuff like that. Of course, it's great when we can engage with you all and you share out things, or especially if you ask us, if you're like, hey, can you do a limited edition theme around XYZ? We can't promise that anything's going to happen with that, but if we know as a whole that the pen community loves, a certain thing, we are more likely to make those suggestions to manufacturers, or see if we can work up something where we can, kind of code design it. So that's kind of cool. So we get to do that. So for you as a customer, you get more specific things, you get new stuff that comes out more. It's more fun, more interesting to collect, get specific themes, colors, materials, stuff like that. So, and then, I don't know, are there other benefits to you? That's a good question. I don't know that like, investment wise, necessarily that it's going to be like better off for you. Usually limited editions are a bit more expensive. That might be kind of more of a trade-off than it is like a benefit. But yeah, so these are all things that I'm thinking about. If I missed anything, let me know. But yeah, those are all reasons that limited editions can be fun and interesting in the fountain pen world. And that's it for questions. I think that'll pretty much settle us there. I do a spotlight. I'll show a couple things, and then my adventures are very brief this week, and then we'll wrap up. And I got a fun fact for you. So let's do a spotlight now. Let's show this butterfly that I've been alluding to. All right, so I got 2 pens over here, 2 Delta pens that I wanted to kind of lump together. And it's going to be a little bit of a tease because the Pompeii is basically gone. And it's kind of a gamble because we didn't get a ton of these pens. We kept them more limited because the interest might be kind of narrow. And specifically with the butterfly, we have several of them. This is our 3rd one. So we didn't want to go completely nuts on any one of them. So we kept relatively low quantities because we knew we were going to be coming out with several. The Pompeii, though, we'll start with that because, you know, we don't have many of them left. They've already sold basically immediately. So yeah, this one is pretty cool. It's a steel nib pen, but this is, you know, it's a Delta pen. It definitely looks very Delta, but it's a little more heavily themed in terms of its actual design. So you got this nice, you know, engraving here, which alludes to some of the architecture and stuff that you would see in Pompeii. You got nice little columns there, like you would see in that general area. It's nice. It's got this nice little red kind of trim accent piece. It's got a nice little piece of red there in the center band as well. And, you know, overall, it's not drastically different than what you would expect from like a, you know, DV original size. But it's a little more rounded on the back here. You know, it's got the flat top, but it's a little different dimensions overall. The grip is slightly different there too. Threaded converter. Yeah, so this one, I can't remember how much this one costs, but if we still have it on the site, you can see it there. But, you know, it's on the more affordable end, especially for like a limited thing like this. So it looks really nice with the red, and it comes with red ink as well, which is kind of cool. We don't stock Delta ink normally because there's nothing that crazy about it, and we don't get a huge demand for it. If that's something you'll want to see a lot, let me know. Oh, and it's also cool. It's kind of hard to tell depending on the angle, but it's got these like tiny, tiny little grooves in here. You really don't even feel it very much. It's very shallow, but it is kind of cool because it kind of looks like that like column kind of look, right? So that's pretty neat. So it was cool we could do that. Rachel and I have actually been to Pompeii before, which was wild. You don't realize that it's a whole city. So they've excavated a good portion of it, but not all of it. But you're just kind of walking around in there and you're like, this is a friggin' city. Like you feel like you're in the middle of a city and you see stuff as far as you can see. You're like, wow, that's pretty wild. So anyway, Pompeii, neat. But the main feature here is our Blue Morpho butterfly. So I have a couple different pens here, which these are the first 2 butterflies that we did. So the first one we did was Flora, which is this nice like marbled green color with a little bit of orange accent there. Nice and classy, gold trim on this one. And this feels a little weightier too than our Pompeii. It's got a little more weight back here in the back. Nice looking, you know, kind of looks like, you know, more or less like a DV original. And then we have the yellow swallowtail. I always mix that up. This is the one that surprised me. Looking at the 2 of these, and this is a good example coming off of our thing that we just talked about with limited editions and stuff. Yellow pens in general don't sell well for us. So, you know, marbled colors, you know, greens are so hit or miss. It's kind of crazy. Looking at the 2 of these, I never would have thought that the yellow would have outsold this one, but this is the first one we came out with and we still have it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just for whatever reason, this yellow really spoke to a bunch of y'all, or maybe like the butterfly is more popular or something. I genuinely don't know why this one is so much more popular than this one, but these are gone. We might have the possibility to do more of these, But I'll be honest with you, it's so risky when we do that kind of thing because sometimes there's a huge demand for something very niche like this. And then we'll go to reorder it. We'll sell like 2 and then they'll sit there for months and no one wants them anymore because there's like a subset, a group of people that really want that thing and then no one else cares. It's so hit or miss. It's wild. Just you'd think we'd have it like all dialed in and figured out after this much time that we've been in the business. No, sometimes it keeps us guessing. So if you're wondering like, Brian, why in the world didn't you make more yellow pens? We made the same numbers of both of these pens and we still have like half of these and were gone in like 2 days. What are you going to do? It's crazy. So that's part of what's fun and interesting about these things is you just never know what's going to happen. But anyway, so those are the first 2. So I just at least wanted to show you how they compare because now we got like a group, we got a collection here. So this is the Blue Morpho, which I'm already digging it because blue is my favorite color. So I like this one a lot. It's kind of cool. Nice little sleeve there. The Delta did same packaging as the other pens that we did, which apparently I have a hard time sliding off. There we go. And can I just say, there's like a nice little touch like that. Like they have the Delta logo here, and then my natural tendency is to want to flip up the lid like that, and then Delta, they did it reversed, you know? So if you flip it over like that, it looks upside down. But knowing that you're likely to open it like that, you still see the logo. I appreciate things like that, you know? Anyway, so we got their butterfly. There you go. Nice little custom card in there. It talks a little bit about it. Yeah, look at this thing though. I like it. I like it. Look at that blue. Ooh, that is nice. It's a nice kind of like swirly blue in there. Let's see if I can get that a little closer to the camera. Yeah, that's the stuff. Now, it's Monday when I'm recording this. It's possible that this could be gone by the time. I just don't know. Looks really nice there. The blue with the red there. You know, Delta just absolutely is crushing it with these colors. It really, really does look like, you know, the colors of the butterfly. Very cool. So this one's got the rhodium trim on it, which I like. I like that for this particular color scheme. I think it looks really nice. Number 6, you have a nib, all that kind of stuff. So this one, let me see. Let me check the pricing on these because I know the Pompeii was a little bit different than the Blue Morpho. I should have written this down. You would think that I would, but we've talked about a lot of pens here today, and my brain is just a teensy bit fried. $252. So it's the same price as the other butterflies. But I think the Pompeii was a little bit more. $300 for the Pompeii. So a little bit more, but still nothing crazy. All steel nibs for all these. They write great. Yovo nibs. What else can I say about it? It's pretty good weight. So, you know, I think they might do like a metal tube. Yeah. So they not only have like the trim ring here, but they've got actually, I don't know how much you can see in the back there. They've got some metal in the back there. So these are not eyedropper convertible pens because of the metal. But you got some metal in the back here. And I think with that, I don't think it serves any other purpose besides adding a little bit of weight to help balance it out a bit. So I like that a lot. The cap is pretty light. So even if you cap it, you know, I guess if you have smaller hands, it could seem a little large, but it doesn't feel really back weighted. It feels very nicely balanced. You know, that whatever that weight that they put in there really helps to balance out some of the front of it. Helps it sit nicely in my hand. I don't know. That's one thing that like you don't necessarily think about is the weight, like the shift of the balance of the weight in the pen. It can really make a difference in how it feels in your hand. And that's something that, you know, manufacturers do try to think about. So yeah, there's our Blue Morpho. And then it comes with a bottle of blue ink too, which, you know, I thought like maybe I should try it out because I don't know what shade of blue this is. Again, I don't regularly carry the Deltas. So I'm gonna grab a little pad of paper. So, and we'll just give it a try. Why not? Now, just because I don't want to have to clean out another pen, I'm going to cheat and use my dip pen. So let's see here. We'll do the little Pilot one. So this is the Delta blue ink. Yep. Okay, and then we'll kakamori it up so we can see what it looks like when you really dump it on. So, just so you can get an idea, I don't think anybody's buying this for the ink. I don't think it's a special ink. I think it's just their Delta blue ink. It's like a nice kind of cobalt blue. I guess it's pretty close to the pen, but I don't believe that it was an ink developed especially for this pen. I could be wrong, but I hope not. Because I should know, because it's exclusive, right? You would think I would know these things. But no, I think it's just their regular Delta blue, which is a nice looking blue. It's like a royal blue. Yeah. So there you go. That's our Blue Morpho. It's going to be limited as well. So if it's really popular, it's going to be gone in half a second, just like our yellow swallowtail. Swallow yellowtail? That's what I want to always call it. Yellow swallowtail. Oh my gosh. Okay, and that's it. 252. We have it at Goulet pens. What nib sizes do we have, Brian? I didn't write any of these facts down. That's the problem. I was excited about inking up the pen, or not inking up. I was excited about pulling out the other pens and using it, that I forgot to look up all my normal info. Fine, medium, broad, and flex. So it's that Yovo Flex steel nib, which is pretty decent. It tends to be one of our more popular nib sizes with most of the pens that we offer it on. So there you go. That's what I got for you. Let's talk about my adventures now. All right. Brian's adventures. I'll be honest with you, I've not had many adventures. I had my in-laws visiting this week, so we were trying to clean and straighten up the house, get stuff straight. Kids had some activities. I did do a lot of leaf work because it's like full on fall now, which is beautiful. Oh, the weather was perfect this weekend. It was like low 70s, but it's like chilly at night. I just love it. Almost no bugs. This really is my favorite season. I'm a big fan of fall. It used to be spring, but now it's fall. The only thing is, the sun is going down earlier and earlier every day, which that's the biggest downside. But sometimes we have a really rainy and kind of gross fall. But so far, it's been a pretty beautiful fall here in Virginia. I really can't complain. The one thing I will say, so I've been cycling, basically every morning, and changed up my diet routine a little bit. I've been able to lose some weight. I haven't talked about it a lot because I have a tendency to lose and then gain it back very quickly. My body is picky and weird. It's something I battled with all my life, but I have kept up the cycling quite a bit. The only problem is it's so chilly now in the morning. Like if I wake up in the morning and it's like 41 degrees, I'm like, But you put enough clothes on and you can, do anything. It's different than running. Running in the cold is one thing, but cycling in the cold, you're going like 20 miles an hour on the bike. It really feels a lot colder. It's like having a 20 mile an hour wind, if you're trying to run. So anyway, but I can't complain too much. It's beautiful out and I love doing it. There's also nobody else out there cycling in the morning in the cold. So I do get the road to myself, which is kind of nice. Okay. I really don't have much else to talk about. It's been pretty boring. Just doing family stuff. So if I have anything more interesting, I'll let you know. We do have Halloween coming up next week. We'll see. I had a gout attack last Halloween, so that was fun. So now that's all I think about every time Halloween rolls around. But we'll see. Maybe I'll wear my costume or something next week. It'd be fun. No promises, but we'll see. Okay. I think we'll wrap it up, and I do have a fun fact for you. So I just want to thank you for watching. Leave me some comments. Continue to ask me questions. I got a lot of good questions in previous weeks. So keep that up, because the better the questions I have, the better I can answer them. Check out gouletpens.com for fountain penning, paper needs, all that good stuff. Subscribe to all their junk. Watch our stuff. You know how it goes. Okay, and my fun fact this week, this is kind of random, but I was thinking more about we're all doing digital stuff all the time. It's definitely like, why do people even buy fountain pens? Like I was thinking about the limited editions. And it's like, why do people buy fountain pens at all? Like it still amazes me that we're all writing with pens, right? But people are still doing it, and there's still an innate desire to want to do it because we're doing so much digital stuff now that I think it's like, it's nice to do something analog every now and then. And it got me thinking about something I heard a while ago, which is that there's like a resurgence in vinyl record sales. And I was like, that's so interesting. I heard that like cassette tapes are like more of a thing now, but vinyl records are even more analog than cassette tapes even. So I looked it up, and according to Statista, in 2024 there were more than 43.6 million vinyl records sold, accounting for 8% of the recorded music market in terms of revenue. 39% of those are purchased in indie music stores as well, which is pretty cool. 24% are mass market, so like your big box stores or whatever, and then 23% are online specific retailers in terms of vinyl records. So it's kind of interesting. I've definitely seen them like just walking around in certain stores. I live in a more rural area, so I don't really have indie record stores, but you definitely see those kind of more in some of the cities and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely still kind of a thing, which is really cool. And then according to officialcharts.com, the top selling vinyl albums in 2025 so far have been Sam Fender's People Watching, Taylor Swift's Lover, Live from Paris, and Sabrina Carpenter's Man's Best Friend. So it's kind of interesting. It's not just like, older people buying their older records in vinyl. These are like new artists that are releasing stuff on vinyl, and those are the top sellers. So really interesting. I think it's so fascinating how you have like social media and all this stuff, like obviously technology, digital, etc., even in making the music that there is today. But then these artists are cutting vinyl records and having like record sales. No, it's definitely not, it's not as big as vinyl records were in their heyday, but they've been ticking up for the last several years. And I think last year there were more vinyl records sold since like 1988 or something like that. So pretty interesting. There's a somewhat of a resurgence in an analog thing like that. So I don't know, kind of cool. It's neat that there's data like that. I don't think there's anything really like that out there for fountain pens. There's things for like pens overall, like writing instruments as an office supply, but not really that kind of data out there for fine pens. But, still, I would be kind of curious to see if there was. I know we didn't exist before 16 years ago. So, we definitely have sold more pens than we did before we were selling them. I don't know what to say. But anyway, that's all I got for you this week. Thanks so much for watching, and right on.